Welcome to 20th Century Music and Arts. In this episode, we got my favorite double album. Hi everyone. These albums at some point were released on double vinyl. Sometimes it was a reissue, but the range of time of the albums is between 1 hour and maybe an hour and a half. And I'm going to go between the years of around 1966 to about 2001. And you'll see my taste in music over these selections. Of course, you know I like a lot of the noisy stuff, but I also have some very mainstream stuff too. Anyway, I gotta stop talking. Let's get started. 1966. Of course, we got to talk about Freak Out, the debut by Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. You know, this isn't really just an album. I don't know. It's kind of like a manifesto. And it was a double album at the time. It's, it's part social satire, part sonic experiment. It's rock and roll, This is just very weird. You've got, blues, doo-wop, garage rock, orchestral arrangements, music concrete, and it's just weird. Tracks like Hungry Freaks Daddy, Who Are the Brain Police, The Return of the Son of Monster Magnet. It's just completely avant-garde at some moments. It's, Edgar Varese, R&B and doo-wop. It's complete surreal madness, and it's mixed with Mad Magazine type humor. Awesome. Now here's one of the big names. We've got the White Album. Now, the White Album is got so many great songs on it. It's different from, say, something like Sgt. Pepper's because it's not, purely conceptual. It's like all the different members went off and kind of recorded their own things, but that's what makes it so great. So there's such a variety of music. You've got some straight-ahead rock and roll like Revolution. You got whimsical stuff like Oobla Dee, Oobla Da. You've got arguably one of the proto-metal songs from 1968, Helter Skelter. You've got Eric Clapton guessing on While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Just all kinds of interesting stuff. It goes all over the place. You've got Revolution number 9, pure avant-garde noise. You got Rocky Raccoon, that's some country. I mean, it really goes all over the place. And that's what makes it really enjoyable. Now, also from 1968, we got Wheels of Fire by Cream. Now, I'm not going to choose any purely live double albums on this list, but I will do albums that are partially live. And so with Wheels of Fire, you have a studio album and then you've got a live album. And they're both great. Of course, this has White Room. It's my favorite song by the band, and it's just got a real eeriness to it, and it really rocks. Great psychedelic guitar. Got stuff like Politician, Deserted Cities of the Heart, Pressed Rat and Warthog, all kinds of great stuff. And then the Live at the Fillmore album is amazing. I mean, you got to hear Crossroads. I mean, they just hadn't heard guitar playing like that, maybe with Hendrix at that time, but just it's so fierce. And you've also got to hear Toad, man. Toad is just, that's where Moby Dick by Led Zeppelin was really taken from, was the great drum solo by Ginger Baker. So yeah, it's just amazing. Okay, next up. Now, I'm only choosing one album per band, and you might be surprised that I'm choosing this album by this band because they have other double albums, or they have a much more famous double album. And of course, I'm going to talk about Pink Floyd and Uma Guma. Like Cream, Wheels of Fire, it also has live material and studio material. Now, I listened to this and I thought it was just insane, the music on here. Now, the live versions of stuff like Astronomy Donomy, Careful with That Axe Eugene, Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, it's just got this great dark psychedelic jam sound. It's amazing stuff. And then on the studio album, you've got each of the members sort of exploring their own vision, and it really gets out there. Richard Wright has Sisyphus, and then Roger Waters One of his tracks is several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave and grooving with a pick, which he does some great Scottish accent on. And David Gilmour has The Narrow Way, and The Narrow Way Part 2 has one of the most sinister guitar sounds I've ever heard. And then Nick Mason, he has some really amazing drum solos on the Grand Vizier's Garden Party. Yeah, it's pretty tripped out album. Now, from 1969, we also have Trout Mask Replica by Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band. I mean, really, no one had made an album like this. This is just the most disjointed sounding rock music. It's like Delta blues mixed with free jazz with weird Dadaist poetry. It's just got this intensity to it. It was, of course, produced by Frank Zappa, and you really got to check this album out, but it will challenge you. But if you want to hear where like bands like Sonic Youth and The Fall would go, this album is definitely very, very influential, okay? But it's not for everyone. But it's definitely for me. And, you know, another great album, 1970. Let's go into the world of jazz and let's do Bitches Brew. It was hard to choose one double album by Miles Davis, but this is obviously a revolutionary album. What you hear is just rock rhythms, electric instrumentations, but it's really out there. You've got, it's really makes the sound of funk, of rock, of psychedelic sounds, of sort of more abstract, almost like Stockhausen sort of things going on. It was definitely a huge influence on bands for decades to come, especially the post-rock bands in the mid to late 90s. And it's still influential today, right? Really amazing stuff. So you definitely got to check out Bitches Brew. Another amazing album from 1970 that's really monumental is Yeti by Amon Düül II. It's their second album. It's just a psychedelic freakout. It's just avant-garde. It's cosmic. It's really, really out there. It really represents that world of the underground music in Germany at that time, you know, and that kind of tripped out sound that Pink Floyd had, they kind of further examine that. So they really go with the experimentation of being noisy, being very psychedelic, being very tripped out. That bands would, a lot of bands anyway in the early 70s would start to get away from, but in Germany, these bands like Amon Düül II definitely have that. And it's also got some influence of things like the Velvet Underground in there, the noisy aspects. I mean, Archangel's Thunderbird. It's just really, really got a great tight groove, but most of the albums really just got all kinds of out there sort of just improvisation, especially on the second disc. Great, challenging music. Now, sticking with Germany, we'll go into 1971, of course, Tag Omega by Can. That's just another hallucinatory odyssey. It just really pushes the idea of rhythm. You've got avant-garde, you got funk, you got jazz, you got the influence of like minimalist composers. I mean, Mushroom with its kind of off-kilter funk groove, it sounds like hip-hop in 1971. I've seen breakdancing done to Can before. It's very, very interesting. But they also have their really, really tripped out stuff like Hallelujah, right? It's like 19 minutes of just crazy drumming and weird avant-garde sounds. They have soundscapes, they've got grooves, and they got the interesting poetic lyrics of Damo Suzuki. It's just amazing stuff. You really got to check out Tag Omega. Of course, I gotta put on, from 1972, Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street. This is the Stones at their most messy, and that's what the charm of the whole album is. It's you know, it's that blues influence, soul. It's really, and from a British band, they're playing a real Americana, but it was actually recorded in France. But it's just amazing what they came up with here, because it just has this atmosphere dripping of cigarettes and sweat, and that's where its charm is, you know. And, you know, there are so many great songs on here, like Sweet Virginia, Shine a Light. It's just amazing. Rip This Joint. And this was probably at the Stones' most excessive in terms of all kinds of behavior. But, you know, you hear this influence on the White Stripes, on Lucinda Williams, on John Spencer Blues Explosion, you hear how much influence this had. I think this is the high point of the Stones, in my opinion. Now for something completely different. If we're going to talk prog, we have to go with the proggiest of the prog albums, and of course that's Tales from Topographic Oceans by Yes, 1973. This was definitely their most ambitious work. It did alienate some people, but I think it's one of those albums you have to go back and listen to again. It's just epic, it's symphonic, it's got extended compositions, it's got a lot of complex time signatures, the musical ability of the musicians, it's amazing. And you've got these incredible soaring vocals, but you've got absolute layer after layer of keyboards and guitars, and that's what prog rock's about, right? Prog rock is about pushing those limits, okay? So some people might think this is very indulgent. Go back and listen to it again. There's really a lot of interesting stuff happening on this album. And you know what? Considering how commercial music became in the 80s, I wish, there was an era like this again where bands could indulge. So Tales from Topographic Oceans, yes, 1973. Definitely check that out. Okay, next on my list, of course, we're going to go with another prog rock classic. And this might be maybe the apex of prog in some ways. I don't know. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis. I mean, what an amazing, ambitious concept album. It's interesting that it would come out the year, maybe the last great prog year, 74, maybe into 75. But it's great. The way they put this concept together, and it's just a great kind of psychedelic dreamscape. It explores themes of identity, transformation, just an overall search for meaning. And it's a conceptual album too. And Peter Gabriel, he can just tell a story lyrically and when he performs as well. And it's a great kaleidoscope of sounds. Really check out Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Okay, 75. We gotta go, of course, with Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin. Again, this is probably the apex of the band in many ways. They had a lot of recordings that were recorded earlier that they brought into this album, but it just has this incredible vibe. You've got rough, raw power stuff like The Rover, Custard Pie, that kind of stuff. You've got incredible guitar playing in My Town of Dying. But then you've got, stuff like Bronyer, Down by the Seaside. It really goes all over the place, but it's a incredible journey. And it really solidifies the band's sound and also the range of music that the band could play. Great production too. Fantastic. Now, we're going to go ahead a few years and going to go to 1979. Of course, we have to talk about London Calling by The Clash. Now, 1979 was an amazing year for punk and post-punk. So many bands after the first wave of British punk were really experimenting, and the Clash do that here. You've got such a wide range again of music, but it's short pieces just like punk is, but they're doing rockabilly, they're doing reggae, they're doing all kinds of stuff that's talking about like the Spanish Civil War, Guns of Brixton. There's this great high energy rock like Death or Glory. It's just an incredible album. I'd always recommend people go back and give this several listens because there's just such a great range of music here. And they kind of had been freed up on this album to experiment a lot more.
Spanish songs in Andalusia, there's tune inside in the days of 39.
Now, we're going to jump to 1982. And of course, my favorite band, The Fall, Hex Induction Hour. This is barely a double album. It's been released again as a double album, but hey, it's my list. This is just an incredible album. It's just got post-punk, garage rock, avant-garde all pushed together. You can hear the influence of like Can, Captain Beefheart, The Velvet Underground. Of course, you've got that weird poetic style of Marquis Smith, half spoken, half shouted, with that particular and there's two drummers on the album, so it's sonically very, very intense, but it's got this lo-fi production that's really lasted so well in terms of its influence. You can hear this influence on so many bands in the 90s from the underground, but just an incredible album. It's just got this certain bleakness, but it's also got this sarcasm that makes it upbeat. It's absolutely great stuff. Of course, if it's 1984, I gotta talk about two albums. The first of these is Husker Du Zen Arcade. Now, I just did a video on Zen Arcade. I gotta say it's one of the most landmark albums in alternative rock, indie rock history. It's got melody. It's still got the old school hardcore punk, but it's got all kinds of psychedelic jams, noisy feedback, and again, it's got this amazing low lo-fi production, and it tells a story that's narrated through the whole thing. It weaves and brings the whole thing together. Just incredible stuff. I cannot recommend Zen Arcade enough. Go watch my video that I recently made on the album. But also released that same day was Double Nickels on a Dime by the Minutemen. Now, this is another underground classic because it just goes all over the place. You've got punk, funk, jazz. You've got even some folk bits. You've got catchy bits. You've got total aggression. You've got weird off-time stuff. It's the musicianship by this trio is absolutely incredible. But the songs are really, really short. But some of the tracks are as complex as anything you'd find on a prog album. But these tracks are very short, so you're engaged one right after the other. Really, really incredible stuff. I cannot recommend Double Nickels on a Dime enough.
Number 7 on the checklist.
Now, this might be Sonic Youth's magnum opus. And of course, I'm talking about Daydream Nation from 1988. This is where the band really got to jam out a whole lot more. And they showed their range much greater than they had on earlier albums. And it is an amazing journey. I love the way Sonic Youth brings in the chaos and the melody together. But it's got this haunting atmosphere through everything that they do. Just incredible tracks. Teenage Riot, Silver Rocket, Eric's Trip, Eliminator Jr., which is like Dinosaur Jr. meets ZZ Top in terms of influence. And then you have this trilogy at the end. It's just layered atmospheric journey throughout the whole thing. I can't recommend Daydream Nation enough. Very, very seminal album.
I can't see anything at all. All I see is me.
Okay, here's another really challenging one, a little bit rarer for some people. And we're going to look at the Dutch post-punk band The X, and they put out an album called Joggers and Smoggers. Okay, you got these lo-fi production again, but this album is wild. You've got these jagged post-punk riffs, but you got total free jazz improvisation. You've got folk stuff. You've got world music stuff. They add in so many different instruments, horns, strings, percussion. But it's really, really noisy. And it's got that, squatter kind of attitude to the whole thing. But it's musically, it's really, really ambitious. I absolutely love this album. So check it out. Okay, we're going to go to my hometown of Toronto. And I don't know why this band wasn't big. I really don't. Change of Heart out of Toronto. They produced really great melodic music, which had elements of psychedelia and just, an overall kind of post-punk feel, but it was also very poppy too. But they released an album in 1992 called Smile. It's just a sprawling, ambitious work. It's kind of a departure because they brought in a keyboard player who would bring in these sort of soundscapes and samples. It's really cool. I saw them live once in an HMV, and it was me, my friend, and one other guy, and we got to see them play right in front of us. It was really cool. But, there's a range of styles here. You got like gospel and folk influence, but again, it's very, very melodic. I'd really recommend people who are fans of, things like Nirvana to go check out Change of Heart. I really, really think you would enjoy their music. And it was played mostly live in the studio. But just a great, great album. Really check out the track Candy Store. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. And, there's a wide range of instrumentation here too. Really, really good stuff. And to finish off, we're going to do Unwound, their final album, Leaves Turn Inside You from 2001. Now, this was a huge departure from the band. They got rid of a lot of the really noisy guitar. There's some of it here, but it definitely has more of that tripped out, atmospheric post-rock kind of sound. They really jam on one riff, but it's not like heavily distorted like it was, especially on their earlier albums. There's an influence of things like David Bowie's Low and the Flaming Lips, The Soft Bulletin, and then Kid A by Radiohead. That's all very much influencing the sound here. This is an amazing album. It's just got delicate melody, but then it's got explosive crescendos, real textured soundscapes. Highly recommend this album. Okay, so those are my top, I believe that's 20 I have there. My top 20 double albums. Yeah, thank you for watching 20th Century Music and Arts. Please like, share, subscribe, and let me know What's your favorite double album? Thank you.